moment to moment.
The Great Unknown took on such a greater depth when I decided to allow it to be more true to itself by rewriting the second verse, because it's it starts as the literal story of me beginning to write music, which was terrifying for me, and that is the whole point of of like it signified my fear. I'm afraid to do things that will put myself out there. I'm afraid to be rejected. I'm afraid to not be seen or not make connections. And so I hide. I'm a person that isolates. That's anxiety, isn't it? It's like fear of the unknown. And so I decided, instead of continuing the song about the boy that started that process, like, because I mean, I started writing music because I liked a boy, and he invited me on a ski trip with a bunch of his friends because he said he liked me. And we were going to Lutzen, and in Duluth, on a stop, he told me he wasn't interested in me anymore, and that he was
on
going
the ski trip.
Halfway there.
On the way to the ski trip.
On the way to the ski trip. But once we were already in Duluth, so it's 3 hours away from where we started and 3 hours from our destination. And I was so upset. I'm like, why are you telling me that now? Like, you should have told me that before. Because I wanted to go. And he was an artist himself. He was a poet. And we had been kind of each other's muses in an experimental writing thing that we were doing to try to get us both inspired, because he wanted to write poetry, I wanted to write music. Neither of us were doing it because we were afraid. And so we became like a muse to each other. But then he ditched me for this other girl, and I'm like, I'm in Duluth. Like, what do I do? And he challenged me, and I am a very stubborn person, and so I can't say no to challenges. He challenged me, and he said, I want you to come anyways, because you don't do things that scare you. Every time you see a situation that you're afraid of, you back down, and that's why you're not creating. And so you can be mad at me the rest of the weekend, you can do whatever you want, but I want you to come and write music about it, because it's that chaos, it's that discomfort that music comes from. So I want you to come. And I said yes, because I realized that it was true. As much as I hated hearing it from this dude, like, it was true. And so I decided to go and write music about it as kind of like a stick it to him, like, see, I can, but also like to prove to myself, like, see, I can do this. And so I did it. And The Great Unknown is the first song that came out. And it's just hilarious, because that's exactly what happened with Jesse and I. After a dystopian mic, one day we were both in the chat room, because we always played last. I was second to last and he was last, so we'd just be in a chat room. Then on Zoom, and on the dystopian mic, open mic that JT held virtually, it was amazing. We were chatting, and Jesse said, you know, I'm a fan of your music. And I thought, wow, like, I'm a fan of your producing and your amazing, like, whatever you did in the Cutie Machines EP, like, you're on all my playlists. So that's awesome that you like my music. The conversation evolved into him challenging me and saying, well, how about you send me one of your songs and I will mess around with it and add in some of the production elements, and it'll just be for fun, like, maybe nothing will ever come for it. And I'm like, challenge accepted, because I tried. I'm stubborn, even amidst my anxiety. And so I sent him The Great Unknown. When I first wrote it, I was working for a church, and I sat in the sanctuary. And so I had like a kick drum, and I don't know how to use a drum set. And I had my guitar, and I had an iPad that had GarageBand. So I recorded all the different parts as I wrote them into GarageBand and pieced it together into like the song idea. And so it's the first time I ever sang it. It has like me like and a kick drum trying to put something about drums that I wanted, and the guitar recordings. And I sent that to him saying like, it's to a metronome, so I think it should work out. And this was my idea for it. And he, I think, was very, very surprised to be sent something he loved. Like, I think he liked my music, but I don't think he, like, I don't know. He got that song and he was like, wow, I really like this. Like, this is gonna like become a baller song. Like, and we that was February. It was mid-February. And since mid-February, we have messaged back and forth every few days minimum about like ideas for this song. Like, he sent me an amazing like production background, I think the next day. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't know that could come. Like, it was just everything that I'd always wanted in my music that I had no idea how people get into their music. And so I was just amazed because The Great Unknown has a big sound, and I hear like all the sound I want in a song in my head. I'm listening to music 24 hours a day in my head. I hear a lot, but I don't have any of the education in music or music composition. I don't even know what chords I'm playing because I tune my guitar to DADGAD and use a capo to change the keys. So I don't know anything. And it's been so much fun working with Jesse, like figuring out how to communicate what I'm asking for without knowing any music theory, and him learning kind of like my language, like what I mean. So it's been so much fun, and it's been very collaborative. The Great Unknown has taken on the shape it has because of my work with Jesse. And so it's so cool to have been challenged constantly, because that's how I function. I function really well on challenge. And it's been, and I think Jesse does too. Like, he's that same type of person, which is why we're doing this. Like, it's funny because it makes me think of how your interview started back in the day when you guys met. It's like the same kind of a thing because both of you kind of operate like that.
I met Katie through Jesse in the original Back to the City studio in the like Sign Up Radio garage, because Jesse was my guest. And prior to Jesse,
as Faustino at the time.
As Faustino, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Jesse, I ran into Jesse outside, close to the Buckingham, where Brooke and I lived at the time. And I said, I've got this new thing called Back to the City. If out of all of the local acts that you like, Jesse, who would you most like to hear like an in-depth interview with? And he said Guante. And I said, okay, Jesse, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to listen to Guante, and I suspect I'll like Guante's music. And if I do, which I will, then I'll invite Guante to come on to Back to the City. And if Guante accepts, then I'll invite you onto the same episode, and you can join me in asking Guante questions. And so that happened.
That's genius. That's absolute genius.
Yeah.
That's so you two. Like, that is like just like an amazing YouTube interact. Like, I see you both in that. So. And so Jesse and I also both operate like that. And The Great Unknown, as it is now, was born, or Phoenix revived through that, because Jesse helped me realize, like, the second verse needs rewriting. He said so many times, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. That's not true. And finally, I thought about it more, and I realized, well, why am I making the rest of the song about this guy? Like, forget him. The song's not about that. The song is about how I started writing, and then I started performing, and that's how we met. That's how all the like vast adventures that ensued happened at Moto-Eye, and from the Moto-Eye open mic Minneapolis community. That's how I met you. That's how I met Jesse. That's how I kept writing music. was from that inspiration, because once I had this song, um, I had something to bring to Moto. I had gone to Moto twice before this ski trip of destiny. I'd been to Moto twice, and I didn't have. I had a like really angry old song from high school and some covers, and so this was really my first big like thing that I'd written that I was sharing with the world.
Mm.
Um, and I loved the community so much and really wanted to, again, the social anxiety. I'm like, I don't know how to become friends with these people, so I'll try to make good music because then they'll talk to me. Like, and so I started writing from that. I kept writing new songs because I wanted stuff to share at Moto. So it's just funny how our lives are all interwoven, and that's, you know, the chorus is that what Moto was for me. The second part of the journey is the same thing, like all the ways our lives are interwoven, all the ways that you bring me healing, all the ways our souls vibrate on the same frequency are both the answer and the problem, you know. And it's just funny, like, because the problem is the anxiety, the fear, and the thing on the other end of you jumping into the unknown is this beautiful, like, cool thing of healing and adventure
Mm.
yeah. So that's why it's kind of like a circle, like it's both the answer and the problem. um because it is a circle, it is how life is, it's how it keeps going. And that's what I like about when he finally got me to consider rewriting the song, this was the outcome. And so I think he was right. I and I'll never say no to a challenge, I'll try it. And so I did try it. And um yeah, it was really cool to see how true it was. And then the last part is like the future. You know, the bridge, you know, gives this vision of, like, you know, the mountains and the sea, and like I obviously care about that stuff, as you can see from my mural reminding me of that. Um, it's where I want to go, but I'm in Minnesota right now, in a small town, which isn't where I want to be, but it is the space that has given me the resources, emotionally, practically, like in every way, to heal to the point where I can be writing and recording and singing. Like, as you, I'm sure, uniquely know, Simon, from our journey of friendship, especially in times of my illness, you've been closer to me than anybody. And it's not pretty, and it takes my physical energy and ability to function day to day, just gone. And then my emotional energy is gone, and I'm shut down for long periods of time when I am in flare-ups with my illness. And it's been really amazing to have worked on my health, very hard work, like into finding the right medications, the right vitamins, the right diet, the right like minuscule things I do throughout a day to take, like these gloves. They make me warmer. I run very cold, and they help my circulation, and then my day is dramatically better. Well, I had to figure that out. And it's all of the time I've put into doing that the last few years enabled me to record this, because it's very physically taxing to sing. And the day that we recorded, we were in studio for 14 hours with my vocals. 14 hours. There were breaks, but none of them were like more than 3 minutes long, except for lunch and this hour and a half that I laid on the floor because I was like, I need a break. But yeah, like I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't have put in the work, which was the other great unknown I didn't want to face, of like managing my health and figuring out how to do that. And it's just the cycle continuing. Like, I master my daily life and how to manage my symptoms enough that I'm finally getting stronger. And that opens up the doors to like this whole new huge beautiful adventure with the same song that's about this cycle happening. And so this cycle, like this song, is the highlight of my year in every way. Like being able to work on this when I didn't have energy, or when I would be at a very low point with lots of infection, or you know, I had severe infections for like all of January through March, and it's been on and off since then. And so it's been a rough year. And this was the one thing that I was like, I'm doing something. I'm moving forward. I'm working towards my goals. Like even though I'm at a low point, like I'm gonna keep doing every little self-care thing I can possibly think of, and figuring out the next thing to add to my list to keep getting better, so that I can do what I want to do, which is write and perform music, and have friends and be in community in Minneapolis. I want to be in Minneapolis. I'm working there one slow step at a time in this big cycle. And it's been a very dark, it's been a fascinating, like the darkness before the like rebirth. And that is the great unknown. It is the, being willing to jump into what you don't know, what terrifies you, because you believe that you have what it takes to figure out in that place how to make it. And so it's kind of like I was able to jump into this unknown because I had already mastered the last one that I didn't want to.
You have experience of growing in the darkness.
Yeah, and it's the Phoenix theme that you and I have had since our beginning as friends.
Which comes from Motoe again, and my own experience of exactly what you were describing.
Mm-hmm.
Having encountered this community, this tribe of songwriters who would inspire each of us to keep writing songs. So it was once I was in the habit, the same as you, of writing songs for that community. That one of the songs that I wrote was a song called Firebirds. And then when...
A forever favorite of yours.
Yeah, and then we'd been friends for a bit, and then one night at Motoe, I performed this song, Firebirds, and we noticed that the themes in the song very much spoke to the experiences that we'd each been having individually before we knew one another. Also related to some of the the positive themes of connection and growing together, recognizing who each other are, that were the themes in our friendship already in the song. Here's an interesting kind of little synchronicity. So whilst I've been in England, I've been working on writing books, and I got most of the way through writing a book called Firebirds.
Oh my goodness, I'm excited.
That is about my experiences with mysticism and which emerge from the story that we've kind of begun sharing here in this conversation. But I took a break from working on that book to write a series of Back to the City books. And there's a number of them. And through these new interviews that I've been recording for the new summer season of Back to the City, so recurring themes, there's a kind of a thread that goes through many of the interviews. And a lot of the women that I've been interviewing have been recommending books to me without me trying to make that happen. One such book is Mirabai Starr's Wild Mercy, Living the Fierce and Tender Wisdom of the Women Mystics.
Oh, I will definitely definitely look into that. Please
Yeah.
show me that again at the end.
I will do. And so through those particular interviews, the first Back to the City book is really, through responding to the new interviews, it's focusing on women and mysticism, which of course is something which I've been exploring in the meantime. And yeah, I really feel that there's an interesting link. I feel like we might be perhaps in the conclusion to said book at the moment, because
Yes, because we're always at the beginning and end. You and I are always at the beginning and end of seasons. This feeding cycle for us.
In terms of the extra material that will be on YouTube, we're going to beautifully be kind of inhabiting and demonstrating the interwoven nature of things, and how music and friendship kind of fuel that magic that the song is celebrating.
Cool.
So I'm going to read the opening verse and chorus of a Sarah Morris song, which is from the opening chapter of this book. And I think the way in which it's exploring such a similar set of experiences to your first single. Okay, so I'm just going to read the lyrics and then see what you think of that. And then there's all kinds of journeys that we're going to go on. A hint of the grand design, a peek at the master plan, a whisper that the cards I need are already in my hand, a couple of neon signs shaped like an arrow saying, right this way to the path I'm meant to travel, a bit of confirmation I belong where I am at. I could use some of that. Well, I've been stumbling around a little blind. I miss the forest every time. But I can tell you the secrets of a single pine. I get lost, but I don't mind, as long as the story I find is all mine. Does that resonate? Which aspect strike you?
That absolutely resonates. The longing for assurance that, like, we're okay where we are, but that's kind of what is driving anxiety, I feel like. And then the peace ironically comes in the embracing the chaos, like embracing, like, kind of like when she said the details of the pine. Am I remembering that right? Like,
yeah. Well, I've been stumbling around a little blind. I miss the forest every time, but I can tell you the secrets of a single pine. I get lost, but I don't mind, as long as the story I find is all mine. So there's this attention to the particulars and the staying open. What we were just talking about with you and Jessie, the comparison that you drew, working with what comes to one in the moment.
That is really beautiful, and I absolutely think that speaks to it, because that is the kind of thesis of my song is like, why do we have to know where we're going? Let's take this road from moment to moment. It's mindfulness. It's deciding to step fully into the moment that you're in, and into the open doors before you, trusting that you have what it takes to figure out the journey, and that there's something worth it in there and something beautiful in there. That's what I liked about the tone of what you just said too. Like, the quote, it doesn't end on like, and I found what I was looking for. It ends with like, and I found something that's mine.
Yeah, all mine.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely that's really what the great unknown kind of is also saying, in a sense of like, I didn't find what I was looking for, which was like a boyfriend from a ski trip with his friends, but I found something that was mine and that was within me that I needed to like be willing to step into, and that like the more I did that, the more it grew.